Greetings, sisters and friends. We are so excited to have you join us in our celebration of our Diamond Anniversary. My name's Beth Lopez, and I am the current president of the Oak Park Alumni Chapter. It's been 75 years since our charter was presented on October 13th, 1946. Over the course of 3/4 of a century, so many wonderful memories and enduring friendships have been created. Over the next hour and a half, we're going to hear some greetings from many of our national officers and a few guests. We're going to share some history from the last 75 years, help you get to know our charter members, and of course, join in song together. I hope you have your chocolate ready. We are especially excited that our online celebration includes a performance from none other than our honorary SAI, Rachel Barton Pine, who was initiated by this chapter in 2003. She has a special performance created just for our anniversary that we can't wait to share with you. Before we get started with our Diamond Jubilee celebration, let's sing the chorale along with Mary Ann Sadlak. Thank you, Mary Ann. I hope you enjoyed singing the chorale with us. We received several greetings in anticipation of our anniversary, and I'd like to share a few of those with you. Our fellow Gamma B alumni chapter in Rockford, Illinois, called me to wish us a very pleasant and exciting anniversary celebration. And I would also like to read to you a letter from our Region 5 Regional Officer, Claire Malott. Dear sisters of the Oak Park Alumni Chapter, it brings me so much joy in my new role to wish you congratulations on your Diamond Anniversary. It has been very exciting seeing all of the activities you have organized to celebrate this milestone over the past few months, and I applaud your determination to meet the goal of sponsoring the benefit concert at our upcoming convention next summer. I thoroughly enjoy your newsletters and I'm always inspired by the success of your chapter. Fraternally, Claire Malott, Region Officer, Region 5. And now for some recorded salutations from some of our national officers and a few guests.
Happy anniversary, Oak Park Alumni Chapter. What a wonderful occasion to celebrate together. I am Ruth Sieber Johnson, Executive Director for the past 29 years, and I am greeting you from SAI National Headquarters in Asheville, North Carolina. Your chapter has been a steadfast star in the SAI constellation since your chartering ceremony, October the 13th, 1946. One of the exciting things about working where the permanent records are is seeing how your chapter has grown through the years and what your achievements have been. So I have a copy here of the original application for your chapter charter, and I'm going to scan it and send it to Marty so she can share it with you all. And all of the service to the SAI ideals that your chapter has done and been involved in, you have truly exemplified the mission to encourage, nurture, and support the art of music. Our 7 founders, those women of such vision, would be so proud of you all, from the many long-standing members to the most recent chapter affiliate. And I am personally grateful to your chapter for the leadership you have shown through the years. The Music Education Scholarship for graduate students in memory of Mabel Beaver, for example, has made possible many SAI teachers to take the next step in their careers. The National Alumni Chapter Achievement Award, earned in 1968 when Joyce DeLuca Polsky was chapter president, a culmination of your hard work and devotion to music and high standards, and earned again in 2013 most recently when Marianne Sadalek was president. Your loving support of Ethel Bullard as she maintained the Memorial Library in Ann Arbor at the University of Michigan. Many leaders from your chapter have said yes to the call of SAI. Chapter officers, fraternity directors, convention volunteers, province officers, and members of the National Executive Board. The fraternity is a strong, vital organization because of chapters like Oak Park Alumni. I was initiated in 1982 and have been hearing about you ladies my entire SAI career. So congratulations, and I am also so very proud of you. I trust that you will raise your voices virtually in our beautiful chorale during your celebration. And I wish you many, many years to come in service to SAI and to music. Thank you.
This is Tammy Sue Hardenstein, Gamma B Province Officer, and I'm so excited to be here to wish Oak Park Alumni Chapter a very happy 75th birthday. They were my first ever alumni meeting, and they are just the most fun chapter I've ever had the opportunity to interact with at convention and at province days and state days. They're just really the best. So happy birthday again, and long live fun.
Hello, I'm Heidi Frankson, Chairman of Sigma Alpha Iota Philanthropies. It's an honor to be with you today to help you celebrate Oak Park Alumni Chapter's 75th anniversary. For 7.5 decades, your chapter and its members have exemplified the highest standards of musicianship, commitment to your community, and devotion to our fraternity. Also, your chapter and its members have been incredibly generous to Sigma Alpha Iota Philanthropies. Since 1994, the Oak Park Alumni Chapter has donated a total of $5,500 to SAI Philanthropies, including gifts to the Century Drive and the Pan's Cottage campaign. In 1987, your chapter also established the Oak Park Music Education Scholarship for graduate students in memory of Mabel Beaver. This annual $1,500 scholarship has provided much needed support to numerous SAI women over the years. And we're so excited that in celebration of your 75th anniversary, you're in the midst of a campaign to raise $7,500 for SAI Philanthropies. Although my SAI Philanthropies sisters and I cannot be with you today, but please know we're with you in spirit. Congratulations on this incredible milestone.
Dear Sisters of the Oak Park Alumni Chapter, this is Leslie Odom Miller, National President of Sigma Alpha Iota. I send you official greetings and recognition of your chapter's 75th anniversary celebration. Originally, I had promised to join you in person for this celebration, However, with the continuing cases of COVID, I am only able to join you via video. Over the years, I have had many opportunities to connect with your chapter, including fraternity events such as Province Days, State Days, and National Conventions. It is a well-known fact that I am a lover of chocolate, and the Oak Park ladies have been faithful in their support of my addiction. During our last National Convention, your chapter members ensured that each day before the beginning of our business meetings, I was supplied with the necessary chocolate stash so that I could make it through my day. Along with those chocolates, various notes of encouragement were included. I still proudly display those notes on my desk here in my home office, which ensures that the Oak Park Alumni Chapter is never far from my heart. Congratulations on your chapter's anniversary of 75 years. This wonderful accomplishment is a true testament of your members' love, devotion, and dedication to your chapter and to the fraternity. Enjoy and cherish the countless memories that have been created each and every year since your chapter's installation on October 13, 1946. May the sisterhood of your chapter continue to grow strong. May the meaning of our ritual continue to guide you in your daily lives. May the love of music never cease for you and your chapter. Although I live in Florida, I look forward to affiliating from afar with you once I have completed my service as National President. Enjoy your day.
Heidi and Leslie, we really appreciate your greetings. And as Heidi mentioned, right now the Oak Park Alumni Chapter is doing a fundraiser of $7,500 in honor of our 75th anniversary to underwrite the philanthropy concert at our upcoming convention. So please check our social media channels and our website for some upcoming information and how you can help us meet our goal. We are already almost halfway there. So congratulations to our chapter members who have contributed, and keep those donations coming in. We appreciate how far and wide the love of SAI has spread over the last 75 years. And now we're going to hear a little bit about our history of the chapter from our current editor and past historian of our chapter, Marianne Sadlak.
Our diamond anniversary. What a perfect gemstone to symbolize our chapter. Diamonds are beloved for sparkle and radiance, for having many facets, for being strong, for having great value, and for enduring through time. This describes Oak Park Alumni Chapter beautifully. It all began with Miss Astrid Matson, a recent voice graduate of the American Conservatory of Music, where she received the Sword of Honor. There was an alumni chapter in Chicago, but Astrid thought it would be a good idea to have something in the western suburbs, which would be more convenient for those outside of the city to attend. She contacted Hazel Lloyd, the province secretary, for some advice as to how to go about starting a chapter and to help her locate other alumni. So, in response to invitations sent by Astrid, 11 SAIs met for tea at the Oak Park Arms Hotel on February 6, 1944. The group elected Astrid as president of the new West Suburban SAI alumni group. They quickly set about planning the requirements for functioning as a group, holding 5 meetings yearly, having 3 musicales, cooperating with active chapters and other alumni chapters in the area, contributing to national fraternity activity, and supporting civic musical activities. After meeting for 2 years and growing in numbers to 25, the group decided to apply for a charter as an official alumni chapter, and were installed at the Oak Park Alumni Chapter on October 13, 1946. We would like to share with you the stories of some of these charter members. Astrid Matson Silberer. After serving as our first president, Astrid continued her service to SAI as a province president. She received the Rose of Honor and the National Alumni Leadership Award, the Diamond Sword of Honor. Astrid holds a special place in the heart of our members for her foresight and loyalty to our chapter through the years. We hosted a special birthday party and musicale for her 100th birthday at the Homestead Senior Living Facility. Her smile always brightened our meetings. Astrid died in 2010 at the age of 102. Ethel Monday Bullard. Ethel was our version of the Energizer Rabbit. She was a 1931 initiate of Gamma Chapter, where she received the Sword of Honor. She graduated with a degree in piano performance. Her community service included president of the McDowell Artists Society, pianist for Oak Park River Forest High School musicals for 30 years, musical director for the Elmwood Park Theater musical productions, concert pianist, accompanist, and teachers. She received the Steinway Award for community service to music. Her service to SAI was unending. She served as Panpipes editor, national editor for 5 years, and was instrumental in establishing the SAI Memorial Library at the University of Michigan. Ethel was always involved when conventions were held in Chicago. She compiled a history of SAI from 1903 to 1993, as well as histories of Oak Park alumni. She received a Certificate of Merit for her ongoing work with creating a music appreciation course for the Hadley School for the Blind. She served as president of Oak Park Alumni Chapter and received the Rose of Honor. Ethel was awarded the Ring of Excellence for her lifelong body of work, died in 1998 at the age of 87. Grace Carlson. Grace was an initiate of Omega Chapter in 1938 and graduated with a bachelor's and master's degree in voice. Grace's service to SAI was also lifelong. She served as Gamma Province President, was convention chairman for 4 conventions in Chicago, was national chaplain from 1956 to 1975, chairman of Ritual Revisions for 2 editions of the Ritual, professional meetings coordinator, and national archivist. Locally, Grace was director of music at the Fourth Congregational Church of Chicago, president for several terms of the Chicago Interchapter Council of SAI, a member of the Musicians Club of Women, and the National Association of Teachers of Singing. Grace designed the Rose of Honor Award. Grace liked to remind us to be gracious Greeks and was a living example of what our ritual inspired us to be. She was a past president of our chapter and received the Ring of Excellence from SAI. Grace died in 1995. Marilyn Welker Kinzer. Marilyn was initiated at New Chapter at Millikan University in 1939, where she was a piano major. Marilyn left school to marry and never completed her studies, but as a surprise from her family on her 80th birthday, Millikan honored Marilyn's long career with a Bachelor of Music degree. Marilyn was referred to as a mentor of musicians through her work as pianist, accompanist, and chamber musician. She served SAI as a province president and province vice president, in addition to being president of Oak Park Alumni for 2 terms. She received the Sword of Honor, Rose of Honor, and Rose of Dedication from the chapter. Marilyn was an active member and performer in the McDowell Artists Association, president of the Chicago Area Professional Panhellenic Association, and active in many other Oak Park musical organizations. Marilyn was another lifelong dedicated SAI. She died in 2004 at the age of 80. Lillian Vesely Brookie. Lillian received a Bachelor of Music from McMurray College and was initiated as a graduate student by Alpha Xi Chapter. She was a voice major. She served that chapter as president and received the Sword of Honor. Lillian won the Chicago Cook County Vocal Contest as part of the Chicagoland Music Festival. She served as music supervisor in Downers Grove grade schools and taught at Riverside Grammar Schools, where she replaced another chapter, Mabel Beaver, who had been her grade school music teacher. She was a longtime soloist at the First Presbyterian Church of Wheaton and then at the Berwyn Presbyterian Church. Lillian was a province vice president, active in interchapter council, and always involved in some way when conventions were held in Chicago, including cutting thorns off of roses, which seems to be a task that Oak Park alums end up doing frequently. Lillian, along with other charter members Ruth Brenneman and Peggy Hayek, formed the Music Makers vocal trio. The fees from their performances in schools and civic organizations were all donated to SAI Philanthropies. She was the first chairman of the SAI Regional Scholarship and received the Rose of Honor. When we presented Founders Day rituals, Lillian, our tallest member, always portrayed Nora Crane Hunt, who described herself as the tallest of the Pipes of Pan. Lillian moved to Milwaukee to be closer to her daughter and affiliated with the Milwaukee Alumni Chapter, where she continued to sing and to volunteer for musical organizations. We were thrilled when she received the Diamond Sword of Honor as a climax to her full musical life and service to SAI. Lillian died in 2011 at the age of 95. Margaret Schenk Hayek. Peggy, as she was called, was a voice major and an initiate of Gamma Chapter in 1927, receiving the Sword of Honor. Peggy became certified as a bold note transcriber and spent many hours in the tedious and precise job of enlarging music scores by hand. She was a member of the Music Makers Trio with Lillian Brookie and Ruth Brenneman, all Riverside residents. She held many chapter offices and headed several convention committees. We remember her gentle ways and love of SAI. She received the Rose of Honor. Peggy died in 1998. Ruth Rowe Brenneman. Ruth was a 1933 initiate of Sigma Sigma chapter and received her degree in voice. She was the third member of the Music Makers Trio as well as a frequent soloist. Ruth held many offices and served on countless committees in the chapter as well as for the Chicago conventions. She received the Rose of Honor and also the Steinway Award for community service to music. She hosted several delightful potluck suppers for members and their spouses. Ruth died in 2000. Bernice Bott Braming. Bernice was initiated by Sigma Delta chapter in 1928 and was a violin major who enjoyed a long and distinguished performing career. Bernice was concertmaster of the Women's Symphony Orchestra of Chicago, as well as concertmaster of the McDowell Artists Concert Orchestra. She played in the Grant Park Symphony, Lyric Opera Orchestra, and was violinist in the Fine Arts Trio. She taught at the Associated Music Studios of Oak Park. Bernice always found time to participate in chapter activities and head committees, and received the Sword of Honor in 1952. Bernice died in 1971. Clara Fernhaber. Clara was a voice major and a 1929 initiate of Gamma Chapter, where she received a Sword of Honor. She taught piano for many years and traveled to her students by bus, since she did not drive. Upon her death in 1970, the chapter received many donations from former students and friends in her memory, and the Growing with Music Fund was established in her name. The purpose was to encourage and develop promising talent in musically deprived children, and partially subsidize lessons to needy students of our members. 2 benefit concerts augmented the funds available, and the project was able to continue for many years. Clara was known as the Dragon Lady, since she was always dragging items to sell at meetings. She was Ways and Means chairman for many years and organized the first white elephant auction, which brought in a whopping $44.20 in 1954. Bernice Tillman. Bernice was initiated by Omega Chapter in 1930 and was a voice major. In addition to serving as Oak Park Alumni President and other offices, She was province president at the time of her death in 1963. Her husband donated $1,000 to the chapter in her memory, which was used to establish a correspondence course in music appreciation at the Hadley School for the Blind. As noted earlier, Ethel Bullard wrote the syllabus for the course and selected and purchased the records used. Dorothy Ellis Labar. Dorothy was initiated by Sigma Delta chapter in 1932 and graduated with a degree in piano. She sang in the choir of the Gary Memorial Methodist Church in Wheaton for 50 years. She was named Wheaton's Woman of the Year for her community activities, which included heading the Salvation Army Drive for 30 years and knitting lap robes for the DuPage Convalescent Center. She was a gracious hostess at her Wheaton home for many of our meetings, and we all enjoyed the spring flowers blooming in her garden. Dorothy died in 2007 at the age of 96. Emma Menke. Emma was initiated by Omega Chapter in 1932 and graduated with a degree in piano. She was remembered as a teacher, pianist, composer, and poet. She taught at Concordia Teachers College, now Concordia University, and also at Columbia School of Music. Several of her compositions were premiered at chapter meetings. Emma was president of the Chicago branch of the National League of Pen Women, as well as president of the Northern Region of the Illinois Federation of Music Clubs. She was also active in the Lakeview Music Society. Emma received the Sword of Honor in 1948. She died in 1971, a lifelong member. Florence Rudin. Florence was initiated by Gamma Chapter in 1923 and graduated with a degree in voice. She was the soprano soloist at the River Forest Methodist Church for many years. Florence received the Ring of Excellence for the original artwork, which was used for the cover of panpipes for many years, and which was also placed in a memorial window of Lutkin Hall at Northwestern University as a gift from Beta members and alumni. Florence also designed the figure of a Grecian lady for the exclusive use of our chapter, and which appears on the cover of our annual yearbook directory. She served on the Historical Research Committee of SAI for many years. She received the Rose of Honor from our chapter. Florence moved to Wisconsin, where she died in 1995. Florence Boydston, Brownie, as she was known, was a 1933 initiate of Omega Chapter, where she served as president and received the Sword of Honor. She served as organist at the First Baptist Church in Oak Park and the Riverside Methodist Church, among others. She was active in the Chicago Club of Women Organists. Brownie kept the chapter laughing when she served as auctioneer for many white elephant sales. She was part of the chapter's very first vocal trio, along with Florence Rudin and Grace Carlson. Brownie died in 1979. Myrtle Neiman Boyles. Myrtle was a 1930 initiate of Omega Chapter, where she received the Sword of Honor. Oak Park Alumni Chapter was installed at her home. She was chairman of hospitality and reception at the 1950 convention. Myrtle served as province president and received the Ring of Excellence. She died in 1984. Alva Sonder. Alva was initiated by Alpha Epsilon Chapter in 1934 and received her degree in piano. She served as the first president of the newly chartered chapter in 1946 and later served as secretary. She received the Sword of Honor in 1949. In 1950, Alva moved to Reno, Nevada. Catherine Vandermolen. Ruth Galvani. Genevieve Mott Etchison. Edith Carnes Beach. Martha Swales James. Nora Jackson Moore. Hazel Lloyd. Annelle Keene. Lucille Jedicke. 5 amazing women formed our foundation and set the standard for Oak Park alumni. From the beginning, they participated in the same activities which enrich our chapter today, providing scholarships, fundraising, we still have those white elephant sales, performing, supporting national projects, enjoying delicious refreshments, having fun, and most of all, forming caring and supportive friendships which last for a lifetime. Thank you, sisters.
Good afternoon. I am Beth Sennett, and I serve as the Vice President of Programs for the SAI Oak Park Alumni Chapter. I have the great privilege and pleasure of introducing internationally acclaimed violinist Rachel Barton Pine. Rachel is beloved by her hometown of Chicago and cherished by her Oak Park alumni sisters. We had the honor of initiating Rachel as a national honorary member in 2003. In both life and art, Rachel Barton Pine has an extraordinary ability to connect with people. Celebrated as a leading interpreter of great classic and contemporary works, Rachel's performances combine her innate gift for emotional communication and her scholarly fascination with historical research. She plays with passion and conviction, thrilling audiences worldwide with her dazzling technique, lustrous tone, and infectious joy in music making. Rachel has appeared as a soloist with many prestigious ensembles, including the Atlanta, Baltimore, Chicago, Dallas, Iceland, Montreal, New Zealand, San Diego, St. Louis, and Vienna symphonies, the Buffalo, Calgary, Rochester, and Royal Philharmonics, the Louisville and Philadelphia orchestras, the Royal Scottish Philharmonic, the Belgian and Russian national orchestras, and the Israel, Mozarteum, and Scottish chamber orchestras, thus having worked with many of the world's most renowned conductors, including Marin Alsop, Zubin Mehta, Neme Järve, Placido Domingo, and with many prestigious collaborators, including Daniel Barenboim, Christoph Eschenbach, and William Warfield. Rachel has collaborated with numerous contemporary composers and premiered concertos written just for her. She also gave the world premiere of the last movement of Samuel Barber's long-lost 1928 violin sonata, as well as a sonata fragment by Beethoven. In addition to her career as a violin soloist, Rachel Barton Pine is an avid performer of Baroque, Renaissance, and medieval music. Her recordings of Vivaldi, the complete Viola d'Amore concertos, even appears in the 2019 Oscar-winning film, The Favorite. Pine writes her own cadenzas and has performed many of her own arrangements as encores. With Carl Fischer's publications of the Rachel Barton Pine collection, Ms. Pine became the only living artist and the first woman in Carl Fischer's Master Collection series. Her edition of Bach's 6 sonatas and partitas was published in 2017. She is also the music advisor and editor of Maud Powell Favorites, the only published compilation of Powell's transcriptions, cadenza for the Brahms Violin Concerto, and the music dedicated to, commissioned by, or closely associated with Powell. Maud Powell is another violinist close to our chapter's heart. Rachel is an active philanthropist, leading the Rachel Barton Pine Foundation since 2001, which we will learn a little bit more about in our Q&A session following this performance. And finally, Rachel Barton Pine has a prolific discography with 38 albums, including recordings with some of the world's most prestigious ensembles and conductors. It is an afternoon well spent to peruse this outstanding collection of recordings. Rachel performs on the ex-Bazzini ex-Soldat Joseph Guarnerius del Gesù, which was built in 1742 in Cremona. It is on lifetime loan from her patron. It is with great joy that the SAI Oak Park Alumni Chapter welcomes the one and only Rachel Barton Pine.
Amazing. That was so great, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us that wonderful performance. I'm getting a little verklempt. So we have some questions and answers for you. Some people have submitted before your performance. And then, of course, we're going to join you on Zoom a little later and we can have a little more casual conversation. But I was hoping to ask you a few questions and answer some things people want to know.
Sounds good.
Okay. So you've been performing for so long and at such a young age. And I think the question most people want to know is, what was that journey like for you in terms of rehearsal and practice? And how has that changed from being such a young performer to a more seasoned performer? And also, how does that process change with the different types of performances, like a competition versus a performance in a concert hall?
Yeah, well, I'll answer the first part first. So I was very lucky that when I was in third grade, my school principal must have been very forward thinking for the early 80s. He suggested to my family that I discontinue attending school. And in those days, homeschooling was not yet very widely practiced nor socially acceptable, really. And I don't even know if my parents had heard of homeschooling, but luckily they were willing to do it to support me. And it really, ironically, made my childhood more normal because I could do a lot of my violin practice during school hours because the academics take a lot less time when you're doing it on your own. And then I could hang out with kids in the afternoon instead of rushing home from school and practicing the rest of the day. So because of the homeschooling, I had the luxury of time where I could just practice, 8 hours a day and just, indulge. Then, of course, in my late teens, when I started traveling heavily and, became really professional, of course, then I couldn't just practice anytime I felt like it every single day. Today, for example, I got up at 4:45 a.m. to fly home in order to get to my living room in time for this event. And so I had to learn how to, first of all, doing all of that work at an early age, of course, gave me the lifelong habits that I now can maintain in terms of my muscles and everything. You never stop studying music, but in terms of the physical conditioning, the athletic side of things, I've really, learned to be more efficient in my practice, especially with parenthood, but also embrace two things. One is the value of micro practicing. I used to think, oh, if I only have 10 minutes, what can I really get done? I might as well just scroll through Facebook. And now it's like, wait a sec. If I even do half a page, that's half a page less I have to do later today. And let's, grab those 10 minutes, and you actually can grab lots of little bits of time along your day, and it adds up. And the other is not being shy about public practicing. Even though I spend my life on stage, I'm rather a private person. And the idea of practicing in front of strangers was always just something I thought I would never do. But, sometimes you're at a master class early and you're, sitting there on stage, and it's like, well, wait a sec. I could be practicing. And so nowadays I do. And I feel like, okay, rather than thinking of it being embarrassing that I'm playing something that's not quite yet prepared in front of people hearing me do it, I feel like I'm actually showing them good practice habits and that maybe they can learn something from that. And if nothing else, they can hear the beautiful sound of this guarneri that I'm lucky to play, even if I'm missing a shift. So public practicing and micro practicing really helped me be able to squeeze it all in. That, and on the days I am back in town, I have a soundproof condo, so I can actually practice at 1 a.m. and not disturb my neighbors.
Amazing. Yeah.
Now, in terms of different kinds of performances, honestly, I never treated competitions as any different than concerts, so to speak, nor playing in worship, which is when I first started to share my music at age 4. It was, and I really love that I first experienced the joy of playing music for people in that context, because it wasn't like the performers on stage and the public, which is in the audience. It was kind of like everybody joining together to have this musical experience. And I happened to be the one playing the instrument, but there wasn't this separation. And I really feel like I brought that sense of collective, joining together to my performances on stage. And then in a competition, it was just a performance. Even if it was just for 3 jurors, I was performing for them and not worrying about the being judged part. And in fact, having now served on many juries, the thing I love best is when a performer can transcend the context and make me feel like I'm listening to a really moving performance. So, yeah, but there's so many different kinds of art forms. I mean, there's live performance, but nowadays there's streaming performances, and you do get that adrenaline. You're in the zone with that extra focus because psychologically that this is live, but you don't have the other humans in the room with you to give you that extra inspiration. And I love streaming. I think I'll want to continue doing it even after COVID is long behind us, because it gives an opportunity for people to watch your concert who might be too young and wiggly to go to a hall yet, who might be too old and frail to go to a hall, people from different parts of the planet that I might not be visiting that season. So it's wonderful to be able to share my music more widely. But that being said, nothing replaces being in a hall with the audience.
Yes.
And having now been on the road continuously for the last 4 weeks and counting,
Wow.
it's something very special. I feel like my interpretations are elevated from just that sense of being in the same space as the people I'm playing for. Um, Recordings are different. I really feel like it's just a very separate art form because, in a way, you can't have that same spark that you do in performance, and you're playing it over and over again to make sure that the ensemble is correct and there's no little imperfections in your tone or your intonation, things that you wouldn't even notice in concert, but if it's on recording and people are going to listen to it over and over again, you want to make sure all those things are corrected. But it's also an opportunity to capture your ideal vision for a piece that you actually, no matter how much you practiced, you could never do on stage. And so you have that other side of the coin. That's really, really enjoyable. I really learned this lesson when I made my Violin Lullabies album, because those pieces were short and technically simple enough ensemble wise with my pianist, that I was able to get from beginning to end of many of the lullabies with no mistakes, so to speak. So like perfect takes. So I thought, oh, the engineer won't have much to do on this album. Just plop this, live take on there and then the next one, and then the CD is done. And yet when I listened back to the first edit, what he had done is he had taken the most beautiful of this phrase from this take and then the most beautiful of another phrase and pieced them all together to create something probably more beautiful in a certain way than I could ever humanly do on stage, but something that is still, honest, because it's kind of the way that I would envision the piece if only I could truly do that. And so by doing those splices, I learned that it's really about, taking the playing sort of to another level. And so the best way to put it is that the recordings capture my ideal vision, but that a live performance might cause me to have a vision that I would never have had if I wasn't there with the audience. So I love doing both, and could, never want to stop doing this.
Yeah, one question that made me think of while you were speaking is we just saw a performance of yours that had such a variety of genres. And it made me wonder, how do you prepare differently for a different genre than you would? And I know from following you and knowing your work that you're a fan of heavy metal, and then you could turn around and play Bach. How does that work in your practice schedule, and how do you prepare differently for those types of things?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's like, different dialects, different musical languages, whether I'm doing Scottish fiddling or Shostakovich or Mozart. Even if you're talking, strictly about pure classical music, um, even within classical, we approach the sound we have to create for Brahms very differently. The type of vibrato, the type of um, contact from the bow with the string, it's going to be very, very different than if we were playing, Mozart or Bach or, and so um, basically, one thing I always look at in whatever repertoire I have on my plate at any given moment is, what am I not doing? So if I'm playing a lot of big fat romantic concertos with slurpy slides, I might be like, okay, I'm not doing that crystal clear kind of classical period playing. So maybe I might just weave a little bit of that into my practice sessions, even though there's none of that coming up for any of the next concerts, just so I don't get rusty. If I am doing a lot of Bach, then I might think to myself, oh, I'm not doing that big fat vibrato, better play the Amy Beach Romance and, as a warm up, and make sure I don't lose that touch. So yeah, so just thinking of what I'm doing, and then what the physical actions are that can best capture that style, and making sure that everything is always in shape.
Yes. Speaking of being in shape, um, back in July, Midori was supposed to perform at Ravinia and got ill, and you were asked at the very last moment to step in and play the Prokofiev Violin Concerto, number 1. This sort of blew my mind. You were able to just jump in and do that. What was that conversation like? How did that come about?
Yeah, well, I was just at home that day, thinking about, what am I going to cook for dinner with my daughter, and what am I going to practice, and then I got a call at about 4:30 saying, "Can you be on stage at 8 p.m.?"
Wow.
And so I didn't have time to get either nervous or excited. I just went right into kind of implementation mode. And so I made a list of, okay, what do I have to do and what do I have to bring? My daughter was attending the Heifetz violin camp, so I needed to contact her teachers and tell them that she would be zooming into her class from the back seat of the car as we headed to the hall. I needed to pack dinner to go. I needed to figure out where had I stored my large venue eyelashes a year and a half ago when I actually unpacked my suitcase for the first time in forever. Because I don't ever really unpack my suitcase; I just repack it. So like all those things, and then the concerto itself, I, rather than practicing, I had to actually go and do the photocopying, cutting and pasting, because I knew that, well, as I said to Maren Alsop, every bit of the concerto was memorized, but not necessarily in the right order. So I didn't want to risk, I mean, if it had been Brahms, Tchaikovsky, so many other concertos, I would have easily done them memorized. But Prokofiev 1 is, pretty gnarly. So yeah, so I needed to actually perform with the sheet music, and which I wouldn't normally do. So my practice part didn't have good performance style page turns with enough measures rest to be secure. So I had to shrink it and cut and tape it and reformat the actual sheet music, and then hop in the car. And the good thing is I had just practiced it in March. So what was that, like 4 months earlier? And yeah, so it was still in my fingers, very much in my brain. I did a series from January through June of this calendar year called 24 and 24 Concertos from the Inside, where I presented a different major concerto each week and played them a cappella, not as a pale substitute for a concerto with orchestra, but really showing you what it is that I myself hear as I'm preparing these pieces, and also what I play for the conductor in our private meetings before the orchestral rehearsals commence each week. So it was a fun chance for violin aficionados to hear the solo part all by itself, and for music students and teachers, of course, to hear what I do. And I talked about the history of the piece, my personal journey with the piece, different interesting interpretative or compositional aspects of the piece. So yeah, so I just used Prokofiev 1 as one of the episodes, and so that was why I was able to pull it off. But talk about amazing. Efficient practicing. I had to literally decide exactly which measures I was and wasn't going to practice. I got to play it all the way through once for the conductor. The orchestra rehearsals had already finished, so we didn't even get to rehearse together, but I knew it, they knew it, and it all worked. So I got home that night and I was like, did that really happen, or did I imagine it? It felt so surreal. Maren Alsop called it a drive-by concert.
Yeah, I could see that. I want to shift modes just for a bit and talk about your foundation, the Rachel Barton Foundation, especially your work with Black composers and collecting their works. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I got inspired to start playing some of this music back when I was in the civic orchestra with the African American conductor Michael Morgan as our principal conductor during the time that he was assistant conductor at the Chicago Symphony. And of course, here in town, we have the Chicago Sinfonietta. For many years, we had the New Black Music Repertory Ensemble at the Center for Black Music Research, which for many decades was the premier such research facility in the nation. So, there still wasn't as much diversity in programming from the mainstream concert presenters as there is now, and as would have been good, but better late than never. But nonetheless, even with what we did have in Chicago, we had a lot more than other cities. And so I was very lucky. I mean, I've so many colleagues, both African American and otherwise, who said that they hadn't even heard of a single Black composer until college or until after college. It just was so not discussed, not heard. And I was lucky to have been exposed to this slice of the repertoire quite a bit earlier in my life. And, being a naive, young person, I didn't think about issues of social justice or any of those, societal issues. I just thought, this is really exciting music. I love the music. That's that. And so when I made my first concerto record, I decided to record some concertos by Afro-European and Afro-Caribbean composers from the classical and romantic eras. Because, I wasn't quite far enough along in my career yet to record the big, Beethoven concerto and Mendelssohn concerto and stuff. Of course, I've recorded all of those since then, but my first album was going to be more of a repertoire-driven project. And so I played these concertos for that 97 release. And then that led to my being invited to serve on diversity panels and getting a lot of requests from students and parents and teachers for music of this type from a variety of skill levels. And I realized that, this really didn't exist. I mean, a lot of the music due to historic discrimination was in manuscript only or long since out of print. And this is before IMSLP. Even now, there's still a lot of things aren't yet on IMSLP, which we're slowly working to turn that around. And even if you could find the music, it wasn't necessarily in arrangements or edited in such a way that a kid at Suzuki Book 2 level or Suzuki Book 4 level could really utilize it properly. So I had started my foundation for the purpose of young artist support with financial assistance and instrument loans. And I realized, okay, I've got a 501c3 and everybody's asking me about this Black composers repertoire. Not that I was the expert. I mean, I didn't know, a fraction as much as, the great Black music researchers and some of the prominent people in the field. But I was out there publicly because of this album and because I'm a touring soloist. So people didn't know who else to ask. And so the first thing I did is I formed my advisory board with all of those heavy hitters who were so generous to, give me guidance and help us, get off the ground. And then, we spent around 15 years collecting about 900 pieces from around 350 composers from 4 centuries and 5 geographic regions, women composers, just so much good stuff. And we're about to release our second curricular volume for violin. But our website, musicbyblackcomposers.org, has actually extended to include repertoire directories for professional performers, all kinds of resources from podcasts and children's books to bibliographies. And there's just so much to explore, and we've got lots and lots of plans. If you go to the About section and see projects timeline, you can see everything we've done, everything we're planning to do. And let's put it this way, I definitely didn't get bored during lockdown. There was no pandemic baking or Netflix binging. I had lots to keep me occupied.
A little bit better than sourdough starter, right?
Well, that sounded like fun too, but it's been so gratifying to see this music being played by people all over the world now, and so many programs, with teachers and students of a whole variety of ethnicities who are just really coming to love this music. And that's what it's really all about. If we love music, if we love classical music, it's to all of our benefit to be able to enjoy all the good music.
Absolutely.
And of course, to make sure that we're representing that classical music is by everyone and for everyone.
For everyone, absolutely. I love that legacy that you're leaving. It's amazing. I've noticed your daughter, Sylvia, kind of popping in and out of frame. And I know she's starting her own performance career. And I was kind of curious, since you started at such a young age, what kind of advice do you give her as a grade school aged performer and on balancing being a child and being a performer at the same time.
Yeah, well, when she showed a real interest in music and wanted to play an instrument, well, I thought maybe she should play cello to like be different than me. But then my husband was like, "We are not carrying a cello onto an airplane every week," because she's been touring with me since she was 3 weeks old. So, yeah, so a little violin it was, and but actually, she's first of all, pedagogy is so different than when I was young. I didn't start fiddling till I was in my 20s or improvising or doing any of these things. Early music, I didn't start till my teens with the Baroque bow. And she's, been doing all this stuff since she was in the mid single digits. So,
Wow.
yeah, so it's a whole different experience. And then she also is vastly different than me because she's been self-identifying as a composer since age 4.
Oh, okay.
So I thought, oh, she's a violinist. I know how to raise a young violinist. This will be no problem. I won't have to figure things out like my poor parents. But now that she says she's a composer, I'm like, oh, I have no idea what to do with a composer. I guess I have to figure things out myself. So, yeah, lots of theory, some keyboard studies, lots of improv, and then various composition classes. Yeah, it's been a really fun journey to just figure out what to do to nurture her desire to compose. And yeah, and then the world is so different with all the social media. She has a little Instagram where she posts
Oh, wow.
lots of a lot of kids post they're practicing their scales or playing their latest piece that they're learning, but my daughter just posts improvs.
Wow.
And she sings a lot, which I was never interested in doing.
I have
And
seen a
so
video of her singing. Yeah, she's very good
yeah,
at that too.
so we just have fun, and I make sure that we balance like the hard work of the music making with the especially when she's not able to until she can get vaccinated, she can't go and do all the
Yeah.
chamber music and all the things that she would have been doing during this period of her life. We make sure that we play together here at home and just have fun with music, and yeah, and that it's all what's the right word, that that it's coming from her, that it's her desire, because
Yeah.
if she turns around one day and says she doesn't want to be a musician, that's fine with me. My goal for myself as a parent, and really for every parent, is to make sure that the kid has an opportunity to get to know music and get to love music, so that they can enjoy having music in their life, whether that's as a professional musician in some way or another, or as a person that plays an instrument as an avocation and can enjoy going to jam sessions or playing chamber music with friends, or someone who just can listen to music and enjoy going to concerts. So just having an understanding of music and a love of music is what's important. And then beyond that, it's just, whatever the kid wants to do.
So true.
But I always refer to Sylvia as a future SAI.
It's absolutely. We love that. And that kind of brings me to my final question. I wanted to know, what was your favorite thing about being an SAI?
Well, that's a very easy question to answer, because it's so heartwarming when I go to, I go to a different city or country every week, but when I'm here in the US, wherever I might go, so often there's a college chapter who greets me, or an alumni chapter that sends a rose that arrives in my dressing room backstage. Right now, of course, I can't go out to the lobby after concerts and say hi to people, but that'll return before too long. But, all these years, it's just been so lovely to make new friends, and feel like I'm part of this community wherever I go. And it really is very meaningful. I know you guys have been sneaky behind the scenes, sometimes alerting your sisters when I'm going to be playing in their town,
Yep.
just in case they weren't aware that I was an SAI. So that's been really nice, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. It really does mean a lot.
Yeah, we have some good networks of people that make sure that everybody knows who's who and when you're performing. Thanks so much for this wonderful performance. I know we're going to meet with you a little bit on Zoom, but I just wanted to say thank you. And boy, what a wonderful performance. And this has really just put our 75th anniversary over the top. It's been fantastic. Thank you so much, Rachel. We'll see you soon on Zoom.
All right.
And one more thank you I would like to give to, before we move on, to a little timeline video for Mary Ann. I want to just say thanks to our 75th anniversary committee, especially Beth Sennett, who arranged the entire performance for Rachel to join us, and also for Marty McIntyre, whose technical abilities has kind of made this all possible. We have a 75th anniversary committee that included Lisa Grisalia, Donna Badil, Marianne Sadilek, Catherine Coffey, Amy Senyos, Elisa Billy Becker, in addition to the other people I mentioned. And then also today, behind the scenes, Samantha D'Adamo has been holding up cue cards for me and making sure I'm fed chocolate on a regular basis. So thanks to everybody who's been doing that. So we just want to move on to a very brief video that shows the timeline of our chapter over the last 75 years by Marianne Sadilek. Thank you. That was actually put together by Marty McIntyre. And Marty, you did a fantastic job. Wonderful memories and beautiful pictures of everybody smiling and having fun. We're going to close this portion of our 75th anniversary celebration with one of our favorite songs. Please join Mary Ann Sadilek as she plays and sing along with her, So Near, So Dear. I hope you enjoyed this online presentation for our 75th anniversary. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the details to join us on Zoom. So give me just a moment to zip over there and start up the Zoom meeting, and we'll have a casual afterglow type conversation with Rachel and the rest of our chapter members. Thank you, everyone. Happy anniversary.